Welcome to Courtside Moms. I'm your host, Wendy Sparks. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Miss Darlyn Brooks, who is the mother of MarShon Brooks, who plays for the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association. Marshawn was drafted in 2015 and has played in the G League overseas as well, so we definitely have an interesting story for you today. Before I invite her on, though, I am so excited that the NBA preseason has begun. I watched my son play last night. The Magic played versus the Hawks, and I got back into my basketball routine where I got into my PJs, I got my water out, I got my cell phone out, and I just started talking to a few of the Magic moms, and it was a lot of fun. It felt good to get back in that routine again. So go Magic. We had a good win last night, so I'm hopeful for this season to come. With that said, I would love to bring on my guest, Miss Darlyn Brooks. Welcome, Darlyn, to the show. I'm so happy that you are spending some time with us today on Courtside Moms.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before you came on, I was talking about the fact that the NBA's preseason started. I know that Marshawn is in China right now. Has their season started yet?
Oh, yeah. Their season started up, I'd say, around mid-October.
Oh, okay. I did not realize that the seasons in China have already started. Well, that's good. Let's hope that sometime in the future, when all this is when COVID is gone and stuff, you'll be able to get over there and catch a couple of games.
Well, yeah, I've been over there twice. So, now that he's pretty much established over there, the girlfriends kind of go now. So, but I would love to go back. He's a dad now. So, yeah, my little grandson, I would love to have taken him this holiday season. However, China's not letting anyone in. Okay.
Right.
Now it may have started there, but I tell you what, once they cleaned it up, that was it. They took it very, very, very seriously. And that is probably why their season has been able to jumpstart, and they're rolling.
Right.
So they're not letting anyone in, especially from the U.S., because,
Right.
we a hot mess over here.
Well, before we back it up and get to the beginning, how was it for Marshawn? Because when he first got to China this time in July, he actually was tested positive for COVID. So what was that like for you as mama in the U.S. and then here you find out that your baby got,
Well,
was
let's
positive?
start. Let's back up all the way to the last season. So when COVID first was announced in China, he was in China for the exam.
Okay.
So at the time they said, well, we don't know what's going on, but next week is going to be, I guess, the Chinese New Year, which they give them around maybe 10 days to 2 weeks off anyway.
Right.
So they just said, go on, on your vacation. So they usually do mini vacations, which is normally either Hong Kong, but this year he decided to go to Bali. So, and it just happened to be around his birthday. So his birthday is January 26th. So he left, went over to Bali, thought everything would kind of blow over. And then it just went wild in China. And they were like, don't even come back to China, go home. So from Bali, he's calling me or, communicate with me via text or whatever, and just says, get me a flight out of here and don't send me through Korea, any of the Asian countries. He was just like, just get me out of here. So he went through Australia. From Bali, went through Australia, and then from Australia to LA. And as he's going on to Australia, that's when, before he even landed, we all got the news that Kobe Bryant died.
Right.
And Kobe died on his birthday, so it was a 24-hour flight just to get back to Georgia. And then, at the time, China's saying, well, we're just going to, we're going to go on hiatus for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks ended up being, a month. And then from there, it was just like, don't even come back. So yes, now fast forward to now July, they're saying, okay, we have it under control here. Get back as soon as possible. So he's taking, his test, he didn't really feel any symptoms. And he tested positive here in the States. So then he had to wait a week before he could even go over there or to be tested again. Then once he got tested again, he was tested negative. They sent a flight for him they sent him a flight here in Atlanta to pick him up. He flew over there on a private plane, just him by himself. He landed. They tested him again, and that's when he tested positive. And let me tell you, they don't play. They what is it? Quarantined him. It's the word. Should know that. That's the word of the year, right? They quarantined. They quarantined him in the hospital. There was no quarantine in the hotel or in your, townhome that they have you in. He had to quarantine in the hospital for, I think 2 weeks, and he had to get 3 negative tests before they even let him out. And then he had to quarantine again for another 2 weeks. So with all that being said, he ended up missing the championship game.
Okay.
He was a part of it, of course, in the earlier part of the season. So he is still a champion, but he was not able to play.
Right.
So, but he was feeling fine. He just went through all of those extra steps to make sure that he was not going to spread it not only in China, but also to the other teammates.
Right. Well, at one point, like, everybody has to be safe, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And just happy that he was able to overcome that and get
he's
back to normal.
Great, and I thank God. I'm just glad that it wasn't anything too serious. So he ended up being okay.
Okay. So give me a background of how Marshawn got into playing basketball. Let's go back to the beginning.
Oh yeah, the beginning. Wow, such a beautiful time. So, it's one of those things where I think, I played basketball. I come from a basketball family.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I played, my mom played, my sister played. We had a basketball goal in our backyard as, growing up. So, as a youngster, I would go outside and see my uncles and my cousins and my dad just shooting around. So we had a basketball goal. So, I had Marshawn, and I raised him in the same home where I grew up because I was living at home. I was young. Let's go back to the beginning. I had Marshawn 2 weeks before my 21st birthday. So I had him young.
Yeah.
And so we grew up in that same backyard where I grew up, and there was a basketball goal. Of course, at the time it was small, but we ended up putting a basketball in front of him, and he just took to it immediately. And I'm talking about probably 2 or 3. As soon as he was walking, he had a basketball in his hand.
Right.
And it just went from there. And as years went by, I moved here, to Atlanta because I wanted a better, future for myself and him. And soon as I came in town, I started looking up, recreation, communities, recreation centers that offered youth basketball. And at the time he was 5, so the YMCA did not start there. You could not join the YMCA team unless you were 7 or 8, I believe. But the city of Decatur here in Atlanta, the Atlanta area, they started at 5. So I drove him down there to these games, and they played only 2 quarters, so made sure that all the kids had an opportunity to play.
Right.
And he was shooting threes like at 5 years old. Of course, it wasn't the 3-point line as it is now, but he was definitely an outside shooter. So, it was kind of clear, like, this is what he wants to do. and this is what he wants to enjoy and have fun with, because that's always been my goal.
Well,
I
as a
didn't care.
mom, you're able to recognize his talent, right? Because you were already a basketball player.
Right, exactly. And I didn't push him into, oh, you're going to play. He tried football, and he tried that for one season in middle school, and he didn't like it. He didn't like being tackled,
Well,
So,
listen,
and that was okay
that's
with me because I
okay.
didn't like being outside.
So, at what age did he start playing organized basketball?
I want to say, well, besides at 5, I would say soon as he went over to the YMCA, which is 7 years old.
Okay.
And that was more organized. Only the best players, start, finish the games. And, at 7, 8 years old, he was doing behind the back passes on fast breaks. And, he was entertaining, and so I'm just happy because I know the game, and we always break down the games on the rides to the game, on the rides home, and a lot of the parents, of course, were entertained not only by him, but just, they were just enjoying their kids out there,
right.
Having a great time, just staying out of trouble, keeping our kids busy.
Right. So he played throughout grade school, I'm imagining, and then high school. So let's talk about his high school. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get to high school. And
where did he play?
Sorry?
Where did he play high school?
So in Stone Mountain. I bought a home in Stone Mountain, and that's where he started playing his high school at Stone Mountain High School. And he was on the freshman team, played a little bit of JV. And he was really skinny, so he still is very lanky, but he was even, at that time, 14, 15 in high school. Just a lot of the younger guys had already at his age were filled out, and he was just really, lanky. So he could play. It's just that he was always overlooked because of his size. He was tall, lanky, but they didn't think that, he could hold up against some of the bigger, 15-year-old freshmen. So he played predominantly freshman, and then would kind of, sit on the bench with JV. Then we went to transfer him to another high school for his 10th grade year. And that program just didn't work for us. So I did not like the coach. I did not like what he was doing, not only to my son, but to others. I didn't like the way it was no longer fun. I understand the game, but you still have to, be the adult in the room.
Right.
And, it was a lot of cursing. I would show up, I'd leave work early to come catch his game. My son's on the bench in full, not even in uniform. Oh, because they ran out of uniforms, and they chose him and maybe 2 other guys to be the ones chosen to sit on the bench and give their uniform up to another guy that they felt that was probably either better or bigger that could play. So it was a lot of that. And I was just
So did you have to move him?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I left. Yeah, we left out of there after his 10th grade year, and we went over to Tucker High School. And that's where it all began. That's where everything came together. He met his coach, Coach Hartree, who is still a very good friend of the family. He was like a father figure to Marshawn. And he played there his 11th grade years. He did not start. He was 6th man off the bench his junior year. And then his senior year, they went all the way and won a championship.
Wow. So were there scouts that came to visit that school?
So here's the thing with Marshawn, and we've always, I want to say he's always been overlooked and came from behind. You understand?
Of course.
So he's always had that chip on his shoulder, and that's okay. But so 12th grade year, they're rolling. They're playing the rival team in DeKalb County, which Kobe Bryant was, when Lakers played the Hawks. Kobe Bryant came and to visit, to Columbia's basketball team, and because they were on the national stage. So they had a lot of recognition, and that was Tucker, which Marshon's school, Tucker High School, that was their rival. So um, during that season, his senior season, there were scouts that were coming to watch. So if Mark Tucker playing Columbia and they're on the national stage, scouts are coming in,
Right.
and they're watching all the other players. They're even watching another player on Marshon's team, Jeremy Simmons. They came to see him. They weren't really coming to see Marshon. But of course, if you're playing well, there's an opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
You're being seen as well. And that's how that all came about. Providence came to see the game, and they came to see Jeremy Simmons, his teammate, and after the game, Marshawn played so well, they came and talked to me. That was the beginning, and I want to say that might have been maybe February. So he was not even, on the radar at all until February of his senior year.
So what was the college recruitment process like for him?
It was very local, mid-majors, College of Charleston, Kennesaw State. UGA showed a little interest. Georgia Tech showed a little, but nothing very serious. And then Providence came along. And because I'm originally from New Jersey, I grew up on the Big East basketball.
Right.
So, I'm from the 80s. So, the Patrick Ewings and, watching all of that, Phi Slamma Jamma, what I'm saying? That was a real good times of college basketball. So I was just like, yo, to him, like, Providence, they may have been on the lower end of, the Big East scale or in the middle, but I was just like, I think you could, if they're really serious, I think you could go here and really make some noise, and you may be able to, live your dream. But let's just keep, our eye right now on just getting a scholarship, because it was never about, to me, that was his dream, but I never forced him, because let's be real, it's 1 in a million that could make it to the NBA level, right?
Absolutely.
And I never wanted my son to feel that he had failed me or himself, so I just always wanted to stay focused on what was ahead of us. If we're in high school, we're going to work on getting a scholarship.
Right.
And if we're in college, we're going to take freshman year first, and then we're going to move on to sophomore year. And then sophomore year came around, and the NBA started. You started like really seeing how this could actually happen, and I was just like, oh my God, but I wanted him to just still stay focused, because I didn't want him to feel that type of pressure. And sure enough, junior year comes around, and it just was not a great junior year. And the NBA does not like them old. They want them freshmen, sophomore, the latest. Junior year came around, so he had to go back for his senior year. And that's when, he set all those scoring records with the Big East, and, scoring 52 points and all that stuff. So it was a good season, but he knew what he needed to do. So.
Well, at Providence, the games were not televised. Most of the games at Providence, most of the games were not televised, and the visibility was so low. So Marshawn, so what did he do to stand out? Because now whenever somebody came around, he obviously had to do everything, like pull out all the nine to.
He did what Marshawn is good at doing, which is score the basketball. Okay, that's his bread and butter. When you're going up against him, and he's a guard, but he's longer than the average guys or guards that, in college at the time. So he's 6'5" with a 7'2" wingspan. So, for him to shoot over, forwards and guards and point guard, it was nothing. And then he's very crafty. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he was, it all started with him and Jimmer Fredette, remember? BYU.
Yeah.
Him and Jimmer being neck and neck as far as scoring, scoring the most points that season. And then Georgetown. He played Georgetown, I believe, at the end of February and scored 43 points. And that was televised. And honey, that was okay. Who is MarShon Brooks? And then 2 weeks later, what was it? Notre Dame came to Providence.
Okay, I
And
gotta ask.
Notre Dame was ranked. So this
Yeah.
was also televised. And he scored 52. He went 20 for 28 from the field. So it was not only it was a scoring clinic that he put on. And it's still on YouTube. My sister tells me sometimes when she's bored, or because she's a Division I referee.
Okay.
So she travels. She's in the airport a lot, and she says sometimes when she's waiting on her flight, she goes and looks at some of his old videos from college. But that was, like I said, a scoring clinic. And once that 43-point game with Georgetown and that 52-point game, he shot himself right into the first round.
Okay, Darlyn, what do you like at games? I would love to come see a game with you. Like,
well, I just, now I will say, as the mature adult woman, as the mom, now it's just, I'm just celebrating. I'm just there, just taking it all in, and just enjoying and cheering him on.
Good for you.
But early on, I was more of the mom coach.
Right.
Because I would be the one to tell him when he's, you stunk up the whole gym. Like, what the hell are you doing? You know what I'm saying? No, I was that mom.
No, but you have to be.
I had to be, because you're doing your kids, even in life, not just with sports, you're doing a big disservice if you don't tell them exactly what it is.
Yeah, you can't give your kids false hope.
You can't coddle them. You got to tell them what, what you see. And like you said, going back and from my experience as a basketball player, I recognize that. So I've always pushed him. And I was not very impressed with a lot of things. Like, even if he, would score a lot of points, I'm just like, well, what, how many rebounds you have? You're 6'5". You can't be, you can't have 25 points a game and you got 3 damn rebounds.
Yeah.
So that was.
But it's good that you understood the sport enough to share your thoughts with him.
Yeah, and he respected my input.
Oh, and that's good, especially coming from mom, right? You know what I mean? Sometimes, boys, they're like, oh, maybe a man would know better, and that's not necessarily the case, right?
It isn't, and I find that most, men or young men that have that strong woman or mother that's in the home, and especially one that played sports and understands it, like, you see a lot of those young men that have that type of success.
Yep.
So we have really knocked down those barriers, and show that we, the single mom could we could take him there as well.
Absolutely, we know what time it is. So
yes, we do.
So when did the decision to declare come about?
So his senior year, after, those 2 games, we started getting a lot of, I'd say a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails to him. And we met this man, his name was Larry, and Larry was a trainer. Larry's from Jersey, and Larry was saying to us, tell Marshawn he needs to come and train with me. So Marshawn, he took it upon himself. He did leave his senior year early because he wanted to train. And this is the mentality of, always being overlooked and still having to work, even harder than anyone else. He wanted it very, very bad. So the second semester he did leave. He's 3 or 4 credits away, though, from getting his degree. So we're going to visit that. We're going to revisit that soon. But he left to go and train with Larry in New Jersey, and another player who was also going to declare, Scotty Hobson out of Tennessee. And, it just went from there. And it was, then he went over to, went to Chicago to train with Tim Grover, I believe. I think he trained Kobe. And we hired an agent and we got some good press, got a few beat writers to come and see Marshon's workout and, put in, their opinion. Like I said, it was a system that needed to be put in place to make sure that he was being seen. And so it worked. And, before we knew it, he was teetering on the lower end of
the lottery. The lottery picks. Yes, I was.
Boom.
So, so preparing for draft is everything to a player who was trying to get on a team, whether they were projected high or not. What was Marshon's mindset, and how did it help him get through all of his workouts?
He was determined. This was the opportunity that he had been waiting for all his life, and he was not. No one was going to take it away from him. So, work ethic, eating right, making sure he was getting his proper rest. It was something that, like I said, he knew that I'm not going to let this slip through my hands. And he worked hard towards it. And I watched the whole thing. I let him go, like I said, to Chicago, where his trainer wanted him to train prior to the combine. And we just waited, and it was a beautiful thing. At the time I was still working full time, at the job I had been on for almost 10 years. And I say that, because it was a job, it was not a career. So it was easy for me, when the time came to, leave it behind.
Right.
Because my son, he needed me. He wanted me with him wherever he was going. And I was going to send my brother, someone else to kind of, and I was going to stay here because I have a daughter. My daughter, Naya and Marshawn, they are almost 11 years apart.
Right.
So I still had to raise my daughter. She's
of
in,
course.
Elementary school at the time, so yeah. But he was just like, no, I want you to come. And so I was just like, okay, then. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, some players just want to play no matter what, but it's important for them to sit back, think about, and really understand what they can contribute to a team. Do you think at that time Marshawn was really ready for the NBA?
Yes, he was. Okay. Yes, he was ready to play in the NBA. Absolutely. But he had no idea the corporate machine that is the NBA. And that's where, I noticed he was a little flustered because he did not understand the politics of any corporation, let alone, the machine, like I said, that is the NBA. So that was very difficult for him to navigate through and understand, what was going on. Players that were on his team that were up for, their max contracts, were not having this rookie guy take their shine.
Yeah.
So he had to sit down and swallow a very tough pill. And I did as well because, as a mother, you're watching your son get, your child, should I say, it could be a son or a daughter, twisted up in all of this at the blink of an eye. You do everything that you're supposed to do. You become a rookie all-star. You come back from the rookie all-star game, and then things, from then on, everything was different.
It changed. Yeah. Well, let's talk about draft. Let's go back just a second.
Sure.
Let's talk about draft night. How did you prepare as mom to attend draft night?
Ooh. He did not want to go to the draft. at the time, you get your agent is telling you all the teams that are interested, right?
Right.
Where you may or may not fall. And so he was as high as 15, and of course as low as 30. But he was definitely solid in the first round. So he did not want to attend because it's nerve wracking, and then you just don't know. So, but I was like, no, there's no way you're going in this first round, and your name is going to get called, and we're going to experience this as a family. Don't be afraid. He has the final say, and I knew in my heart that I was not going to put my son in a position on a national stage, on national television, to to be made a mockery of, or to be embarrassed that he just wasn't his name wasn't called. So I kind of felt in my gut that it was okay for us to go. But as far as me preparing, I don't even remember. I think I was just coasting. The tears flowed after, and I mean after, not even during, not when after he called his name. We went back to the Prudential Center because remember, this was New Jersey Nets that he first got drafted with too, and we went back there to take pictures. I had a party of, I rented out a place in Newark for family and close friends to have their own watch party.
Mm-hmm.
And, being that we're from Jersey and he was born in Jersey, his dad lives there. So his dad and, some of his friends and family came. And it wasn't until we came back from, taking pictures that I actually was able to, it just hit me, and I just started bawling, crying.
Right.
Anyone knows me, I'm not I'm soft, but I'm a little rough around the edges at times. So it was just like I had to hold it together.
Of course.
Because it was just so tense. What we had all been through, what I went through. I went through experiences at my job, and I don't want to get into that, but they were treating me a little different because of what was about to happen with my son. You know what I mean? So it was just a release, and so the preparation was just making sure that he was okay. But I just was coasting, just making sure that he had everything he needed.
Right. Well, you said that he was drafted to the New Jersey Nets, but actually he was drafted 25th overall to the Boston Celtics, and then moments later he was traded. So what happens then? I mean, you get up they call MarShon's name, MarShon Brooks, you're drafted to the Boston Celtics. He gets up there, they give him his hat, and then he goes and takes the picture, and then he walks off the stage and finds out he's traded. What happens then?
So so I'm glad you brought that up. So as the time goes through, prior to pre-draft, we had got really some great information from the Indiana Pacers. Mm-hmm. Larry Bird, at the time, being the GM, really loved Marshawn's workout. And so much so that, he sent, and I'm sure other teams do this, he sent a private detective to Atlanta to meet me. And I guess they did all their background checks on, the player and the family. But this private detective came, and, we had lunch, and he just wanted to know more about me. I guess, they want to know their investment, right? So when Larry Bird, the Pacers were picking at number 15. So when number 15 came, it was Kawhi Leonard, who turned out to be the Kawhi Leonard, right? Mm-hmm. So we're just like, okay, so then 17 comes, and I believe it was the Knicks, and he worked out for the Knicks. They picked Iman Shumpert. And then he worked out for Charlotte, and I can't think of who that was. I'm not sure who that was. But anyway, we're Marshawn is nervous. He's looking at me I know. And so from 17, and Charlotte might have been 18 or 19. From then on, he had worked out for no one. He did not work out for Boston. He did not work out for New Jersey. So we're just, we're wondering, oh my God, who's picking him? Like, and so I started second guessing, like, oh God, maybe we shouldn't have come. And he's just looking at me like, so I'm watching, and I never told him, I'm watching the man who gives out the hats. Okay, this is what I'm doing. I didn't tell my mom, she's on my right, my son is on my left. I didn't tell anyone. I'm seeing that he's getting word beforehand of where he's supposed to stand so he can hand the hat to this player. And so before David Stern at the time, God rest, God bless his soul. Before David Stern even comes back on stage, this man is setting up, and I'm just like, So I'm paying attention to him. And then I see him, 20, 21, 22, 23, and then I see him in our area around 23. And then I say, I still didn't tell Marshawn, what my mind was thinking, but I'm like, it's coming. And sure enough, when David Stern came out, the 25th pick, he was standing directly in front of us, and I knew then it didn't make any sense to me that Boston Celtics was about to pick Marshawn. It just didn't. But I knew that they were about to pick him because of that man that was standing in front of us holding the hats.
And then they traded him a couple of minutes later. Like, how did you find out? Because I'm assuming you're still sitting, I guess, in your sitting area and Marshawn's on the stage.
Let me tell you, Marshawn was just so happy to hear his name called. Girl, Iraq could have called.
I tell you.
Okay. And he would have been happy. So, immediately after he went up, got his hat, and then they come back out and says, the agent brings us the other hats, and was just like, here, he's going to Jersey. And then that was the bittersweet moment because I'm from Jersey.
That's right. Your family's there.
Girl, did I want to go back to Jersey? For my family, my mom and dad, yeah. But, for Marshawn, and his friends, and, it takes, it's Jersey is Jersey, So I was just like, I wasn't sure of how I was going to have to protect him in Jersey. You understand? That's the thing. So, so it was just, like I said, bittersweet. We're going back home. So, we went back to Jersey. But that was a good thing because at least I knew in Jersey that with the Nets, that they needed a two guard. They needed a shooting guard at the time. So I knew that he would be able to play immediately because of their need at the two.
Well, there's not that many players that get drafted close to home, right? So I guess that
exactly. Right,
so
right.
Good for you guys. I mean, for me, when my son went undrafted and then he ended up in Turkey, so that was not close to home at all. So
I know. Okay, so you understand what I'm going through now.
Everything you're saying, I understand because my son went through a lot of the things that Marshawn did. I mean, minus the trading, but we'll get into that later.
Okay.
But
what is your son's name?
My son is Kem Birch. He plays for the Orlando Magic.
Kem
Birch.
Birch. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So let's talk about the beginning of his career with the New Jersey Nets. Just the first couple of games. How was that for you?
Oh my God.
I can imagine your hype.
It was a dream. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm very even keeled, like my third eye always does not allow me to really immerse myself into too much because I'm always just, is this for real? But I was just so proud.
Right.
It was just amazing just to see this whole thing come full circle.
Right.
We're not even pressing the issue about being a pro basketball player. He knew that he would make money. He says, Mommy, in high school, he said to me, I'm going to make money doing this, Mom. He said that. And I just remember saying, okay, son, and that is overseas, which he was saying, if I got to go overseas, this is what I want to do. So
Right.
to see him here, in Jersey, playing on an NBA team, it was just so surreal and just very rewarding. I was very very proud of what we were able to accomplish. Absolutely.
2 years later, he was traded back to Boston, the team that drafted him in the first place. But that didn't last long. So let's talk a little bit about that because, I mean, I'm looking at Marshawn's story and it's pretty incredible. I mean, he is the poster child of you never know.
Okay. Yes, he is.
He,
Um,
yeah,
so that was the beginning of the end, and I watched a lot of, like I said, I watched a lot of the politics go on. The first 2012. So I thought maybe, the summer and to come back in 2013. Over the summer 2013, I thought things would change. A lot of players on his team, they got their money. They were happy, they signed these lucrative deals. And so I thought that things would change and get better. And for Marshawn, as far as playing time and then they wanted to go all in, right? So they're going to Brooklyn now. So they're like, and maybe I'm skipping around a little bit, but as they were heading into Brooklyn, they needed to go in with, they had to compete with the Knicks for the fan base. So that was important to them. So they had to go all in, and they brought in a lot of players that played his position that were older, veterans, and so he had to take a back seat, and he did. Came off the bench, did his thing, whatever, and then it just kind of coaching started to kind of sour on him. And, he just didn't really feel or understand where he fit in. So that was a trying time. I even stopped attending the games. Because at this point, as a mom, I'm in protective mode. I want to protect my son. And, maybe even, curse a few people out. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't a good time. So I stopped going. And then over the summer, spoke to his agent a few times. And we kind of felt it was probably best that we move on. So when the time came around for, them to get this team together, which consists of Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Marshawn's name was floated in the mix of that because he was still young. So Boston wanted to see, maybe a change of scenery, right? Could do some good. And we were happy about that. I will say that. We were kind of happy that he was leaving the situation in Jersey, because I'm gonna be honest with you, it was not a good situation. I'm talking about from the top execs all the way down to the players. And you will see after we left how things started to unravel. And a lot of, people, a lot of players end up getting exposed. Let's just say that.
Right. No, I love your honesty. I really do, because a lot of people don't understand what really goes on, right? Or they just think that like everything is blessed. You're playing for an NBA team and you're this millionaire and just you know what I mean, just do you and everything is great, and that's not necessarily the case. But for Marshawn, I mean, the Celtics, well, he was traded to the Celtics, and then they put him down to the G League team, correct?
They put him
To
down
me,
to the G League
yeah,
team because they were guard heavy at the
yeah,
time. And they felt that, he could work on some things. So, it's about fit as well. You have Brad Stevens, who is, a college, he came from Butler. So he was like the college basketball coach Darling. And now he's, now he's hired to be the coach of the Boston Celtics. And his style and scheme, which was not it. Marshawn didn't fit into that. They didn't need a scorer. They wanted someone that played on both ends. And Marshawn has, like I said, a very unique gift. Um, he's a scorer. That's what he does. So on the defensive side is where his weaknesses is. So you have I think his name is what's his name? I forgot. Avery Bradley, very nice guy, very nice kid. Avery Bradley, who can play, both sides of the ball, and Keith Bogans was also a part of that, trade from Jersey with Marshawn, and Courtney Lee was on Boston at the time. So they had players that played his position that they felt were better suited. So they sent him down to the G League, and then, he plays extremely well in the G League, so he didn't fit there either. So they didn't know what to do with him. And then, but I will say, and then Jordan Crawford. Jordan Crawford was also on that team. And that's where Marshawn and Jordan Crawford end up, being developing a really good friendship because they were both on Boston. So I know I'm jumping ahead, but they left there and went to Golden State.
wow.
Yeah.
But he did a lot of movement within that month. I mean,
Oh.
he was traded to the Celtics. He went down to the Red Claws. Well, I shouldn't say went down. He played G League, the Red Claws, and then he was traded to the Golden State Warriors right after. Then played Santa Cruz, and this is all within 1 month. I mean, how do you prepare to be shuffled all around the place?
I don't know how he did it. Mentally, I had to keep him up. Okay, that's what I did. So
Right.
wherever he was, I traveled. I flew in, drove. At the time, when I said I moved to Jersey, he got traded. I stayed in Jersey because my daughter was in middle school. So, I wasn't about to go to Boston. That wasn't ever a part of the plan. So she needed to finish middle school. So we stayed in Jersey, right. But we drove to Boston to see him play, and would come in for Thanksgiving and those types of things. And then, and then he gets traded to Golden State, and now he flies out. I'm driving into Boston to help him pack, or getting, the teams,
Right.
The teams send their people in to pack
Yep.
all the stuff up, and his car gets shipped out and everything. So we all come together. He had a girlfriend at the time, and his college girlfriend that was living in Providence. So she drove up and helped me while I can, still had to, raise my daughter in Jersey, make sure she went to school. So I just had to make sure that he stayed up and that he wasn't getting down. And then shortly after that, I flew into San Francisco to just put some eyes on him, to make sure that, get here. All right, I know you got to start over, but let's get it together. Let's try to see where you fit in, and make the best of it. I will say, Golden State Warriors, their organization is above board, because now I got experience. Okay?
Yeah, so you're a seasoned mom with a lot of air miles.
You go from, hey, I understand now. Okay, so you go from the New Jersey Nets and it turns into the Brooklyn Nets, and then you go to Boston, which wasn't bad. But you go to Golden State, they are on it. They take care of everything. They take care of their players. They are probably equivalent to, what would you say, like the Oracle, one of the, the Googles, one of the better corporations of, of America, where everyone wants to work for. That's at that time, I don't know now, but at that time, they had a very, very good, office team that did everything and always made you feel a part of what was going on, what they were trying to build. But once again, there was not a good fit. And at that point, I'm about to go crazy.
Well, yeah, because your son is all over the place, and I can only imagine it being difficult, and which led him shortly after to Italy, and then to China. I mean, what was it like for him to leave the U.S. and go to Italy, a whole new country and culture, and then go to China, which is a different culture from Italy and home?
Marshawn is very, he's a tough guy. Like looking back, he's really a laid back man, and he doesn't say much. So I had to learn a side of Marshawn and how tough he was.
Yeah.
I knew I was tough because I knew I grew up in Jersey and I was raised there. Didn't leave Jersey till I was 26. But I raised him in Georgia in the South, as came here at 5 years old. So, he had dealt with a lot, but he had dealt with some things. But this one was this was a new animal, and I was worried for him. But I went with him, and I was like, I'm not sending you off to, another country unless I'm going there with you. And I did. I flew in with him I think we left in August of 2014. And it was amazing. Oh my God. So if you have to start pulling on your faith, right? Because that's what gets you through, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, God, how did we end up here? What message are you trying to convey to the Brooks family? I'm going to follow your lead. And then I realized that this is what it was about. He wanted to play basketball. Right. And, some people's their happiness are weighed, differently. And his was, as long as I'm playing, I'm happy.
Right. I'm sure for Marshawn, that's all that mattered.
I can't be on the bench. And I can, but for so long, I'm not going to be on the bench watching players that are making, way more money than I am. And I understand that you got to play the $8 million guy and, of course, the $25 million guy. But as far as, the role players, you got to play those $9 and $8 million guys before me because, here I am, just got traded here and not really seeing where I fit in. So when we got to Italy, it was a great, he loved Milan. The city is just amazing. He fell in love with it. And because of that 1 year, I was able to visit Italy 3 times. Okay. I went to go visit, and then I, discovered, of course, Paris, and, went there for New Year's with my daughter, was able to bring her, my sister and I. We went on a train ride through Rome, from Milan to Rome. So,
So it's good that you were able to experience that as well with your son. Let's talk about the games in Italy. How different are they from the games in the U.S.?
That was way different because the language barrier, right? Uh-huh. They don't understand. I don't understand the cheering from the crowds, but I will say the crowds are into it. They are vocal. There is a section that, they have the drums. They wave the flag, of the right. Team flag. It's serious. And so it was great. It was good. They really accept and embrace the American players, what they call the imports. They right. embrace them. So that was a good situation. But I will say, be honest with you, the money is not as good right. in Europe as it is in China.
So is that why he ended up in China?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
A better deal? So you got to go where the money is, right?
Especially for China pays a premium right. for scores. Like if you watch some of the games, they're not going to pay that type of money for a shot blocker. They don't care about that. They want to see the ball go in the basket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That is so true.
and we want to pay you to put the ball in the basket. So it just ended up being a great marriage for Marshawn and China, and especially where he ended up in Jiangsu. Like he was a god. Like they knew what they had over there. They knew they had an NBA player that just ended up in China, just like with Marbury. Marbury was a great guy. He was a great player. It just did not work out here. He had to go somewhere where he felt respected and felt, like I said, everyone's happiness is weighed differently. So Marshawn was very, very happy in China.
So he played there for 3 seasons, correct?
He played in Jiangsu for 3 seasons. They absolutely loved him, adored him. And that makes you feel good as a parent. You go and visit and you have the GM, making sure that me and my daughter were fine. They gave us an interpreter to travel. Like we didn't want to stay in the hotel. We wanted to go places. We were like, yeah, go with them on the train, take them here, whatever. So it was good that they looked out and took care of us as well.
Right. Then the Grizzlies came calling while he was in China. How happy were you that there was a possibility of Marshawn coming back to play in the NBA? And how happy was he?
Well, we had been waiting on that moment, I guess. And it's funny because I got word that a player that plays in China, he is from Memphis, and he is very close with the Memphis basketball organization. So I believe he just happened to have a conversation with either the GM or the basketball operations president or something. And they just happened to ask him, like, questions about China. How's it over there? So tell us, who's over there balling out? Like, who's the best? And just like, let me tell you something. MarShon Brooks over there. Marshawn is killing over there. And that's how his name came up. They end up getting in touch with his agent and bringing him in for a 10-day.
That's right.
And he was ready. Like, he's always knew that he could play in this league.
Right.
Just like I said, you just got to find the right fit. And he comes over, and I was excited, of course, because now he's a dad. So his son had just been born in 2018 in January, and then Marshawn gets his 10-day at the end of March, and he lights it up.
So then he came back. He had a 10-day contract with them, and then later on he signed a multi-year contract with the Grizzlies. Yes. Did he finally feel like, now I did it?
Well, no, because I don't think that's his goal of.
Right.
He knows he could play here. He knows that. And if everyone has their role. Like, the NBA is built up on the superstars, which is the top tier. And then you have the mid-tier players, or the guys that are on the brink of superstardom, like the Devin Bookers, Joel Embiid. You have them coming along that are being groomed. Ben Simmons to be the next, set of superstars. And then you have the role players. That's just it. So he knows. So yeah, there are role players that play on the NBA now that are playing, or they're getting paid very good money, but are not playing basketball. They're just there. And Marshawn knew that, okay, I could come back here and I could play, because he knew he could always be a role player, but playing the game is where he wanted to be. And so, yes, we were very excited. Hindsight, we look back and we always, I asked God, okay, what was our reason? We came back to the NBA, to Memphis. It just didn't work out. Why? Why was that? And Marshawn says to me, when he left the NBA after 2014, before he went to Italy, he was only had, I guess, 3 years in. So in order to be fully vested, retirement wise, I believe it needs to be 4 or 5. And so we came back and got those 2 years. So if that's what we have to look at as that was the reason why God brought us back, so he could be fully vested in
Right.
getting his retirement, then that's what we'll live with.
Well, he signed his deal with Memphis, and then shortly after, he was traded once again to the Bulls,
Yes.
and then waived a couple of days later. He didn't even play for the Bulls. So, what happens in a case like this? I mean, do the players just sit in limbo and wait to hear back from a team, or, and you know what I mean, your agent? Like, what do you do?
Absolutely not. You have to reinvent yourself. And that is
Yes.
Marshawn will probably, his face, as you said, could also be the poster boy for reinventing himself.
Yes.
So, he was already familiar with China. And once China, Jiangsu, and the teams that he plays for, that he's playing for now, once they got wind that he was being waived, because we knew that Chicago did not need him. They didn't want him to come in. They didn't want him on the bench. They wanted to go young. So that was that. And so, yeah, almost immediately the phone started ringing for him to come back to China.
Right.
And I mean, the purse to go back was very lucrative. So he was not going to sit around and wait for an NBA team. He actually
just wants to play.
He just wants to play.
He just wants to play. Good for him.
He wanted to wait till after the break, the All-Star break. That's what he waited for. And then that was mid-February. He waited for that. Once there wasn't a lot of, I think Detroit might have been a little interested, but not showing enough interest where he felt that he would pass up on the money in China. So he went back and then ended up winning a championship.
Good for him. What is one thing you wish you'd have known before Marshawn began his career?
Began his professional career?
Yes.
I wish I would have known more about the politics of the NBA.
Yes. Both of our sons have played NBA, G League, and overseas. What so far about his journey have you appreciated the most?
Oh, I've appreciated the fact that Marshawn, God has brought us around the world. We have been able to travel and see cities that I may have never been able to experience had it not been for that orange basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm very appreciative that he's happy. You could just see the pep on the court when he's playing. And also, I'm very thankful and appreciative that my son has never had a major injury, ever. Okay.
That's awesome.
Yes, that's a blessing in itself.
Yes.
Right?
My baby too.
Yes.
Amen. We're all knocking. That's it.
Absolutely. Praise God. Just a tweak of an ankle, some ice, some cold ice baths, and that's it. Keep it moving.
I believe my son's going to be in his 40s in the NBA.
Oh,
because he's just so strong. That's it. Him and Marshawn.
Marshawn, he told someone China's probably going to have to kick me out. Like, I am going to be here. Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Thank you.
What do you think he's learned about playing with all these different teams?
I think he's learned the business side of things. Now he understands the approach is going to be a little different.
Right.
It is not basketball first. It's your job, right? You're an employee. You go to work. If you do 2-a-days, you do 2-a-days.
That's right.
And so I think the business side of not just the NBA teams, but the business side of China, the team he's playing on now, they're working on their third championship. So coming in second is just out of the question.
Yeah.
So their approach is a lot different maybe than Jiangsu, the team that he was in, that he first played for when he first arrived in China. So yes, the business side, I think, for sure.
This is the part of the show now that we want to know some fun facts about Marshawn.
Oh, okay.
All right, Mom. What is that go-to dish that you make that he just absolutely loves?
Okay. I make a seafood lasagna.
Okay.
Yes. And that is my signature dish that I can bring to anyone's home and shut it down. Okay. Yes. So when I make that, it's everybody's calling up. He's picking up the phone. He's calling everybody because he's also a very giving. He has a big heart, so he's very giving. So he's yeah. So that's one of those things that he definitely loves that I make.
Okay, so then the next thing you're going to have to do is go whip one up. Well, make
Uh-huh.
two. Make one for him and freeze it and
Okay.
send it. Send it to China, and then send one to the Courtside Moms team. So, like, send like 9. So we can each have our own, okay?
Well, you know what? If you all are ever in Atlanta, my doors are always open. Know that.
Thank you, and we
And
all
I don't
appreciate
extend that to anyone. So that's for sure. Just
Oh,
always
thank
look
you.
me up and come through and see me.
Thank you. What was one item as a child that he could not live without?
It's basketball. Like he went to, and that might sound cliche.
No?
He went to bed with a basketball in his bed. That was, he didn't have a dog. He didn't have any pets. That was what he did. No, so yeah, it was his basketball for sure.
You're not the only mom who said that. So, no, it's not cliche. It is so, so, so real.
Yeah, great.
What,
Yeah.
what was your childhood nickname for him?
Oh my God. I just I call him Mars. That's all. Just a little short. No really nicknames. You know, I will say Marshawn is difficult. Of course, there are where it was, mispronounced Martian. You know, so I put the capital S in there to make sure that it was Marshawn. But it's okay. But I would always just say, hey Mars, what's up? And even some time when I text, I'm talking to my sisters and I was like, hey, you here from Mars today? And it's just one of those things. But there was really never a nickname.
Okay. Now we want to ask some tips or advice from you
Sure.
to our listeners. What 3 tips would you give a mom who has to deal with a coaching decision that she does not agree with?
So if, with an open mind, if you are a mother that knows the game, right? Because I don't agree with mothers that just feel like, oh, my kid has to play or whatever, and your kid is not a basketball player. No, you want him to play. He plays basketball. There's a difference from
Right.
playing basketball and being a basketball player, okay?
Yep.
So if your son or daughter is a basketball player, then get them up out of there. I mean, now we have, there's open enrollment. I know in the state of Georgia, there are plenty of schools that kids can go to. If you have a child that is on the brink of something great, or just say on the brink of getting a scholarship and he's at a school and playing for a coach that is not utilizing your son or daughter in the proper way, get them out of there for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because the education is going to come. I mean, if your child is doing well in school, then absolutely, because they're going to be able to adapt. To me, if they really love the sport, whether it's football or baseball, if they know that their grades have to be good and have to, stay up to a certain standard to play, then whatever school they go to, they're going to be just fine.
Right. What advice would you give to a player about how to deal with a tough teammate?
Have a conversation, because ignoring the problem is not going to make it go away. Marshawn has dealt with that, but he's not a vocal guy. He's just not. So I'm very confrontational. You know what I'm saying? But there's a way to do it. I think because as a teammate, if that's your teammate, you both need each other. Right. You're only going to go but so far. Individually, the team is not going to get there. So have that conversation with your teammate for sure.
And my last question to you. If you could give only one piece of advice to another courtside mom, what would it be?
I'd say have your identity outside of your son or daughter. You know, create. Um, there. This is a beautiful situation that we've been put in, and it does not come across often. So use this opportunity to create other avenues for yourself, for your son or daughter, and for for their legacy, for their families as well.
Right.
And you have this platform, so you have the money, you have the platform. Yeah, go for it. Be creative and create other avenues for sure.
I agree. So what pretty much you're saying is,
Like what you're doing.
yeah, there. I was just gonna say,
Like what you're
like
doing.
me. That's right.
Yeah.
So you have Marshawn, whose mother was Darlyn, but then you're like, no, 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 no. I'm Darlyn. I'm
I
Marshawn's
stand
mom. That's it. You
I
know.
stand on my own. I have several businesses, you know, licenses, real estate. I'm an insurance agent. You know, I'm a savvy businesswoman, and I've been able to, you know, I was afforded that opportunity to go and do those things because I work from home. I work for him, and yeah. So you know, when it was time for him to buy a house, who better to sell it to you but me? So that was why I went and got a real estate license. Yeah, I want to keep the commission.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna keep that money circulating right
Listen,
here.
it
You
makes
know,
it. Yeah.
it makes sense. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's basically it.
Darlyn, you are fantastic. I had such a great
Thank
time with
you.
you.
You are as well. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, thank you for coming on Courtside Moms, and please keep in touch.
I will. Good luck to you and everything. I will definitely continue to support.
Well, thank you, and good luck to yourself as well, and your
Thank
many
you.
business ventures. Sorry we didn't get a chance to touch on all those today.
No, that's okay.
And good luck to Marshawn in China and to
Thank
his
you.
family and everything that he does.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in, guys. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Courtside Moms, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast.
Anything you want done, baby. I'm every woman. It's all in me. Anything you want done, baby. I do it naturally.